Nalo could have been one of Disney's best villains and made Moana 2 just as good as the original, but his character lacked a decent motive, leaving the sequel without a strong antagonist. I'm going to rewrite Nalo to show you his true potential by giving him a motive so unique that's never been seen in cinema before. My rewritten motive comes from the iconic song You're Welcome.
You're welcome.
In the song, Maui sings about all the great things he has brought the humans.
For the tides, the sun, the sky.
The reason he does this is because he was abandoned by his human parents and therefore yearns to be loved by humans, so he brings them all this cool stuff. Nalo, on the other hand, just also happens to be a demigod who was abandoned by his human parents. But unlike Maui, he doesn't cope with that by giving humans gifts to be loved because he was abandoned. He thinks humans are disgusting, selfish, and greedy creatures. They deserve to suffer. He wants to take away all these primal joys like the sun, fruits, the ocean, breeze, and delicious coconuts that humans experience. He's basically the anti-Maui. It would also be funny if Nalo was voiced by Vin Diesel.
Take it or leave it.
The plot in the actual movie where he wants to divide people is because he wants to take out as much joy as possible, and so they don't share resources and knowledge to flourish. This would be a great contrast and show people the complexity of human nature. Most movies make the mistake of showing humans as simple and binary. If your dreams get crushed, you're going to become a villain. And if something majestic or inspirational happens to you, you're going to become a hero. But humans aren't that simple. If we were, everyone would be living their best lives. Showing the exact same event creating two completely different people would be a breath of fresh air from all the cliché-ness in Hollywood lately. This would also shed light on the primal and simple joys of living out in nature that we city folk ignore or take for granted, as we constantly see a fight and a story based around those simple joys, which is sort of what the original writers wanted to subconsciously do as they glorified primal lifestyles through the movie, especially in the opening song. Not only that, but we all know when they wrote the original Moana's story, they didn't intend for there to be a sequel, and then they pulled the sequel out of their asses to make money. But a Nalo backstory like this would make it seem planned and intentional, because in the song, You're Welcome, Maui says,
It's a map of the victories I win.
He says, the victories I win, while showing a tattoo of a monster, which implies that in order to get humans all these good things, he would have to engage in some combat. So it would make sense that Nalo was one of the monsters who was trying to stop Maui from getting humans these good things. And if that's not enough for you, he even says,
For the islands I pull from the sea.
The islands I pull from the sea. Seems awfully familiar to the plot of Moana 2. Maui could have tried to lift Nalo's curse in the past, but failed. Finally, it was revealed that Moana's tribe used to be voyagers, but stopped sailing because of all the monsters and other dangers in the ocean. Nalo could very well be one of those, if not the major monster making the ocean dangerous by lightning striking all the ships because of his motive I've written. Making the second movie feel planned will be more respectful to the audience rather than the audience feeling like their love for these characters and the Moana story is being milked for profit, because the producers know fans will watch the sequel whether or not it's good. So why spend the extra effort making it good? Not only that, but they could also make more spin-offs about Maui's battles with Nalo and dive deeper into their backstories. In the spin-off, we could see the exact scene where Maui's parents decided to abandon him and how he reacts to it, while struggling to find a meaningful purpose as he grows up, showing what made Maui, Maui. Then, after that's shown, we would see Nalo get abandoned by his parents and see the difference in the way both of them react to and overcome that struggle, while showing how and why Nalo decides to take a different path. Then, after both of their backstories are finished, we would see them engage in combat as adults. After both of them find their purpose, after Maui became Maui and Nalo became Nalo. This would be one of the rare spin-offs like Better Call Saul that exists to add a new perspective to the main story instead of just to make money. That way, they can make the money they so desperately desire while also making meaningful and entertaining stories too. But what if, drumroll, Maui and Nalo were brothers? That would explain why they were both abandoned, because the same parents abandoned them. It would also explain why they look so similar, and why they are both gods. There could also be potential to dive deeper into the lore of Moana, as we are left wondering why would parents decide to abandon two demigod sons and why they separated them. Now on to the second issue with Nalo, the fact that he wasn't in the movie. If you're doing the thing where you create a big bad antagonist to save for the next movie, there must be some major villain defeated in this one so the audience feels satisfied. Like how Marvel set up Thanos in the Avengers to be in future movies, but also had a main villain for the heroes to defeat in the current one, Loki. Disney had the perfect opportunity to do that with Matangi, the guardian in charge of imprisoning Maui and Moana. And it would be so cool to see a fight between her and Maui, since in the original, Maui rarely ever fights full strength with his hook. Maybe with a musical battle too. Having that in the sequel would satisfy a big itch for the fans. This is what sequels are supposed to be for, right? Showing cool stuff the original could not. Building awe from what was set up in the previous movie, finally, Matangi could have been in the finale helping Nalo stop them from touching the island, making things more challenging. Just when all hope is lost, as Maui is unable to fight both Nalo and Matangi, their boat, struck by lightning, sinks. All of them are going to drown. But out of the blue, the Kakamora have returned. The battleships arrive and the Kakamora tribe open fire on Matangi. Matangi strikes back, destroying the darts and piercing a big hole in one of their ships. The Kakamora put the blob thing on a catapult, they tickle it with the feather, and as it's about to sneeze, they launch it at Matangi. Wouldn't a battle like this be amazing? Maui, Moana's team, and the Kakamora versus Matangi and Nalo? And here's an interesting idea for a plot twist. What if after Matangi let Moana go, and the movie played out as it did with Moana overcoming all odds and saving the day, they realized it was all a fake world created by Matangi, which the entire second half of the movie took place in, like what Bill created for Maple at the end of Gravity Falls. That would explain why they got so lucky, as protagonists usually do, why the ocean didn't move, and why she let them go so easily. Then they would somehow have to escape to the real world and fight the real Matangi and Nalo. Or if you want Nalo to be the villain instead of that, then what would need to happen is Nalo has to actually show himself in the movie. This would also be a great idea because then Nalo could have fight scenes with Maui, which would be really cool to watch. Nalo could have learned from his previous fights with Maui and figured out his weakness, making him able to finally capture Maui and begin taking away all the joy from humanity. Moana would have to go on a journey to defeat Nalo, just like how she had to return the heart of Te Fiti last time. Moana would try to reason with him, but soon finds out that not everyone's the same and not everyone can be reasoned with, being forced to figure out a different approach. What would that approach be? Will the pretty Disney princess be able to adapt and use more harsh methods to save the day, or will her big heart get in her way? Because Maui would have no problem kicking the crap out of Nalo. This would also lead to interesting conflict between Maui and Moana on their journey, and maybe even make an interesting theme idea Disney has never tried before. Some people just aren't capable of resolving things peacefully, so sometimes you just gotta speak their language and use force instead. It would certainly be another breath of fresh air from all the cliché-ness. This is a great setup for a better Moana 2, but unfortunately, a good villain isn't all it takes to make a good story. There's a lot more Moana 2 needs to be just as good as the original. Fortunately, I made a full video rewriting every other element of Moana 2.